A sales and marketing professional, Ram has over 27 years in the IT services solution space. In his past life, he helped scale the businesses from 200 to 5,000 people in just 12 years. Starting from scratch, he set up a self-sustaining and global sales, marketing, business development, bid management, partnership, legal, and visitor experience organization for his employer. Ram has been a key member of the business strategy group, focusing not just on scaling the business profitably, but also building the right business, something that all the stakeholders will be proud to be a part of. He is a big believer in culture and human values, work-life balance, mentorship, and having fun. He strives to establish all these by practicing what he preaches. We're extremely glad to have you speak to us today, sir. Without any further ado, I now hand over the session to you. Thank you, sir. Just another thing, the students are free to pitch in between and ask questions whenever they have it. Please put it in the chat box and I'll ask it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that introduction. First of all, congratulations to all the people who have started a new chapter at BIM. All the best for the next 2 years and for the rest of your lives. What I'm going to do is I have put together a deck of slides, again, just pictures and a few words. So don't worry that I'm going to bore you all to death. But with all your permission, I would like to share my screen now. Just give me a second. Let me know when you can see my screen.
Yes, we can see this, sir.
Okay. So what I thought I will cover over the next few minutes is what are the 9 things I wish I had done during my MBA. And you could ask, why not 8? Why not 10? Why not 20? I'm sure there are a lot of things that I wish I had done. But these, to an extent, not only reflect what I wish I had done, but what I also think a lot of people that are in the workforce or are joining the workforce today should have. So before I start the talk, just a couple of sort of disclaimers. The first one is that this wish list is very specific to me. It's based on my experiences, my choices, my last 3 decades of professional experience. So this is not a list that I can prescribe for anybody else. Each one of you has to think about this as individuals, as for yourselves. But the objective of this talk through my example is to sort of get each one of you thinking as to, should you have your own list? And if you have your own list, what should be in that list? And this is not something that you should be thinking 10, 20 years from now, but just as you're starting your MBA program. So that's my objective of the talk. And the second is also that some of these ideas might be a bit dated, given that I studied 32 years ago, and a lot of things have changed in the MBA program, and not the least the fact that you're all virtual today, and we don't even know when physical classes will start. But I've tried to make it as relevant as possible based on what I've observed in young MBA graduates joining the workforce, based on what my colleagues who have just graduated from MBA schools have told me. They have reviewed this list. My son goes to college. So based on all those factors, I have tried to make it as relevant as possible. But all said and done, take it with a pinch of salt. So let's get, I will give you a few seconds to absorb the creative. The idea being that each person, what you see is just the tip of the iceberg, but a lot of what a person is, who a person is in the background deep that's not easily visible. So that sort of brings me to my first wish. I wish I had selected my major more carefully. Now, I'm not sure at what state you people are. Have you already decided on your major? Is there any flexibility to change it as you go along and so on and so forth? But I take you back to my days, and I have to confess that I chose sales and marketing as a major because a lot of my close friends selected that. I did not give too much thought to the basis for that choice or to the consequences of that choice. And I'm sure that if I knew then what I know now, or what I even knew 10, 15 years ago, I would have most probably made a different choice. So what I think, if I had been doing my MBA program now, what I would have done is to carefully analyze what my personality is to carefully think about where my interests lie, and to also carefully review what my capabilities are. And given these three things, I would have done an honest introspection. I would have done a lot of research. Now there's no dearth of information available out there, and spoken to a lot of well-wishers. Spent a lot of time, in effect, to figure out exactly what I want to do. Just keep in mind that this decision is sort of going to stick with you for about 30, 40 years. It's going to shape the direction that your life is going to take. People do change careers during that time, but it's not that frequent. And given that life expectancy is increasing in 40 years, they're saying that death is optional. It is important that you give enough time and attention to this decision. But again, don't get me wrong. Don't think that you will not be successful in any major that you select. There are various factors that will make you successful. But what I've realized over time is that there is a cost to life. And if your life is in sync, your personality matches, your interests matches, your capabilities, then the cost of a life in sync is much lower than the cost of a life that is not in sync. So I wish I'd spent more time in selecting my major. That sort of ends the first point. Any questions before I move on to the next one?
Yes, sir.
No. Yes, sir.
Please go
yes,
ahead.
Sir. Yes, sir. Myself, Rishi-Kumar. During the first year of your MBA time, you have decided your major, sir, or well, you are interested after only first year that this is my major.
No, so in that time, you had to make that decision very early on. And right off the bat, mentally, I was into sales and marketing. So I just went along with a lot of courses in that area at the exclusion. Not, I would say at the exclusion, but the courses in other areas were much lesser than what I did in sales and marketing. So I had made a decision and I stuck with that. So it was sort of a closed mind at that time.
Yes, sir. So for the time being, time factor also considered as a major for choosing our major, sir. During that time period, you have chosen that marketing is a major. So can we say that time factor also considered to be a major, choosing a major?
I do not understand that question. Can you please rephrase that?
Yes, sir. During your period of graduation, that you choose that marketing is your major because of the time period. Marketing is your is an at pace level. So I'm saying that can you accept that time factor is also one of the major criteria for choosing our majors?
So are you saying that at that point in time, maybe sales and marketing was a high growth profession, and that could be the reason why I chose that? Is that what your question is?
Yes, sir.
So again, I'm not talking about a major per se. What I am saying is you have to choose a major that is right for you. So if your personality, your capability, and your interests are aligned, whichever major you choose, you will do well in that. As I said, there is a cost to doing well. There is a cost to living your life. And if that life is in sync, then that cost of that life is much lower. So if you choose a major, irrespective, today, I think at least the next 5, 8, 10 years, unless there is another pandemic or some other catastrophe, the economy is going to grow aggressively. So whichever major you choose, it is my opinion that there'll be enough and more opportunities. So the idea should be to choose something that is in sync with your ability, interest, and personality.
Yes, sir. Thanks.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir. Thanks for your question.
Okay. So what I'll do is let me just take one or two questions, if there are any, after each point, in the interest of time. And then at the end of the talk, if there are more questions, I'm happy to take that as well. So the next point, again, I'll let you absorb the visual. At this point, I'm not sure whether the professors are going to be happy or unhappy with this point. But I just wish I had really gotten to know my professors far better than I ever knew them. And there's a reason for why I was not close to the professors. I came from a family that was very conservative, at least in terms of education. So we had to either become doctors or engineers. There's no other discussion. And teachers were people that were supposed to be put on a pedestal, respected, not questioned at all, kept at a distance. So that was very clear. So somehow I could never get close to professors, and I think I lost out a lot because of that over the last many decades that I've been working. So one has to realize that professors are generally fountains of knowledge. They have extensive experience. They have deep industry connects. They keep upgrading themselves, updating themselves with the latest knowledge through research, through consulting, and so on and so forth. They are sources of fresh talent, and many. I can keep going on as to what who professors are. And also, I believe at some level, teaching is an altruistic profession. It's a profession that once you select, you really want to help other people. But for that, you need to ask for help. And I'm sure that if you ask for help, there's no professor that will not come forward and help you. So my point is that if you build deep relationships, deep rapport, deep friendships with professors in the 2 years. And again, I'm hoping that physical schools will reopen so that you can get to campus and you can spend time with your professors, having coffee, having tea, having dinner and lunch and playing Holi and so on and so forth. But even if it's virtual, you have to figure out some way to do that. And believe me, this is going to add value to your life and to your career for as long as you are around. So make it a point to get to know your professors, build those deep relationships so that you can gain a lot from that. Any questions before I move to the next one?
Yeah, hi, sir. Good morning. This is Anurag. So
Okay.
from what we absorbed is since you took up marketing, but then if not a majors in marketing, what would have been your alter ego?
So again, this is entirely my opinion. And those days, there weren't too many options as the sales and marketing. There is operations, there is finance, there is HR, and there was information systems. Those were the major things. So typically, it is my belief, again, things keep changing every year, but at that time, at least, salespeople were supposed to be extroverts, speak a lot, exaggerate a lot, maybe even lie once in a while, love meeting people, and so on. And that was not my personality at all, and probably it's not my personality even today. I am more of a numbers person. I can see patterns in numbers. I can put numbers together very quickly. So if probably I'm thinking finance. If I had to relive my work, and if I knew then what I know now, I would have probably gotten into finance.
Thank you,
Makes
sir.
sense?
Yes,
Sir?
definitely.
Yeah.
So I have a question. This is
Excuse me,
Gayatri
sir.
here.
Okay.
Please
Am
go
I
ahead.
audible?
Yeah.
Yes. How late is too late to figure out your specialty? I mean, you took marketing initially and then you realize you're a numbers person. How, like, at what point of time did you realize that, okay, now it's time for me to switch to finance? This is not working out. How late is too late?
No, it's again very personal. It's I never thought about it for a long time, and it's only once you believe that you have achieved a lot and you're comfortable with life that you start questioning about what you have done in life. And that is when you start deep introspection, and that is when you start thinking about what could have been done, what should have been done, and what would have been. So again, understand that today life is very different from what it was 30 years ago. Today you have lot more information available, lot more flexibility in how you drive your life and profession, lot more ability to interact and engage with people, and so on and so forth. So what would have taken me a long time to figure out, and for all you know, even if I had figured that out at that time, from the family background I came, and so on and so forth, I might not even have been able to change the profession. So it could have made it worse for me if I had started doubting my choices at that point in time. But today things are very different, and I think it should not take you long. I would say ideally 2, 3, 4, 5 years you should figure out as to what exactly you want to do in life and make that switch. But again, learning is as important as experience. So my advice would be to do as much of that analysis as possible now, so that you spend the next 2 years gainfully, rather than leave it for the next 4, 5 years to realize that something could have been different. Makes sense?
Thank you, sir. Yes.
Good morning, sir.
Morning.
Hello. Yes, sir. So throwing some light back into the specialization area. Sir, my question to you is that, being an industrialist, what do you expect from, say, a person from a marketing background or maybe finance? What is that you really expect from him? So it would be helpful to us if you let us know in a very small manner, so that we could analyze ourselves in a better way, and it will also help us make a wise decision while choosing a specialization.
Yeah. So I think let's go through this presentation. A lot of these points that I have put here are things that I see missing in people that are joining the workforce. So that will give you a good sense of what and it's not that I'm a great person. It's just that what I feel missing. And in general, I think most other managers or professionals would also expect something similar from people that are in their team, that are joining their company, and so on and so forth. So go through these things again. In my opinion, functional aspects are things that you can learn. But there are certain other things like culture, ethics, attitude, and the small things that small things that I will cover in this talk are things that either you're born with or you have to form a habit for. And if you do those things, then whatever functional area you are in, you will be successful.
Thank you.
Sir, this is Siddhant.
Hi, Siddhant.
Sir, you said choose a specialization based on your personality. So say I have an interest towards marketing or sales, and I'm not necessarily an extrovertish person. Would you still advise me to go for it?
So again, there are 3-4 different aspects you have to consider. So one is your personality, one is your interest, one is your ability. For example, if I take ability, I know people or I know friends who can't get numbers even if their life dependent on them. So they're just not capable of being in finance, for example. So it is, again, I go back to my statement of a life being in sync. So it is not that you will not be successful in any specialization you choose, as long as you're willing to work hard for that and show the right attitude. But the cost of living a life that is not in sync will be higher than the cost of living a life that is in sync. So don't worry about the fact that just because you're not an extrovert, you cannot be in sales or marketing. You can be. But you'll have to work harder, you'll have to do things differently in order to be successful in that. As against a specialization or a profession which is in sync with your personality, ability, and interest. You get me?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
So it's, again, today, you can make a living off anything. For example, my son, he's in 8th class, he wants to drop out of school and he wants to make money playing a game called Rocket League. That is possible if I allow him. But the thing is, don't worry about a livelihood, don't worry about being successful at what you do. You have to start worrying about the higher purpose, the higher thing. Will my life be in sync? Is what you should worry about, amongst other things. So what I'm saying is that there are enough opportunities. It's very easy to make a living. It's just that how much you're in sync with yourself is what is important. So keep that in mind as you go about deciding what sort of a major you want to select. And it's not that I give this talk and I disappear. I'm here. Your school has my number. I can do more talks. I can have a one-on-one conversation with you. I'm happy to help in whatever way I want. As I'm sure your professors, the other people, the other industry connects you have, all of us are happy to help. So think about that, keep analyzing that, and work through what works best for you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so the next point, this graphic does not do full justice to the next point, but it's a close enough representation. So what I wish I had done is I had long, engaged debates with my batchmates. Now again, being virtual puts a spanner in this particular aspect, but I'm hoping that you guys can figure out some way in which you can recreate that late night cafeteria discussions over aloo paratha or milkshake or something like that. So the reason I put this here is one of the biggest shortcomings I see in professionals today is in their ability to ingest data, take inputs in real time, to process that immediately and to respond appropriately. I see a big dearth in that ability. And I've seen great meetings being suddenly reduced to ordinary because somebody asked a question that was like totally bad. And that used to be a saying that there are no stupid questions, but I disagree with that. And again, don't let that stop you from asking questions. But the thing is, there are questions that shows people that you're not connected at all, you're not engaged at all, you didn't get the point at all, and you just asked that. Or I've seen great salespeople become ordinary because they're just not capable of going outside of the prepared pitch. They're just not capable of engaging with the prospect or a client in real time. I've seen lots of meetings where there are long pregnant silences because you have asked somebody something and that person is just not able to respond. So one of the greatest strengths you will have is if you are able to ingest, process, and respond in real time. So how do you build that ability? You build that ability by knowledge, by preparation, by making sure that your communication is good, and by practice. And that brings me to this point where you have those engaged conversations with your friends, especially this late night where it goes on for hours and hours, and it's morning before you even realize that. So that is where you sort of get a diverse set of topics that you can speak about. You get a very tolerant group of people, but at the same time you get brutally honest feedback, you get immediate feedback, so that you can keep honing this ability to engage people in intelligent conversation. So again, I don't know how you guys are going to manage that in a virtual world, but you have to figure out as to how can you make sure that you have pointless conversations with your friends for hours on it. And that believe me, it will really help as you enter your professional life. Any questions? Okay, I will move to the next one. I wish I had made it a habit to leave my comfort zone. So if so, to repeat a cliche that has been repeated ad nauseum, change is the only constant, and fortunately or unfortunately, change is accelerating. And just the last 2 years should make it amply clear to all of us that nothing is going to remain the same. Every year, every month, every decade, things are going to be totally different. Just to give you an example, a few days ago, I read two news articles just a couple of days away from each other that were completely contradictory. For example, one said that the IT industry is going to hire hundreds of thousands of people to meet growing demand. But at the same time, the other article said that the IT industry is going to lose hundreds of thousands of jobs because of automation. So while contradictory, they are correct in their own way, in that lots of jobs will be lost in certain types of skills, but lots of jobs will be created for different types of skills. So people with skills that are out of favor have to rapidly move to skills that are in favor. And don't think that this is just that the movement will be just within an industry. No, industries are going to become redundant. So movement will happen rapidly within industries, but it will also happen across industry. You have to leave an industry and go to some other place. So it's not that it will happen once and then stop. Unfortunately or fortunately, this cycle will keep repeating every few years. So the qualities that will get you through this is reinvention and resilience. So in a professional career spanning 30, 40 years, you will have to reinvent yourself many times. And don't assume that the reinvention will be smooth or easy. There might be times when you will lose your job, you will be under financial pressure, you will be under a lot of stress, and so on and so forth. So resilience is the key. Each time you are knocked down, you should have the ability to get up, reinvent yourself, and get back in the game. So all I'm saying is make it a habit to leave your comfort zone, and no better place than an MBA program at college to do that, where there are a plethora of opportunities, diverse opportunities. You are amongst friends who are more or less in the same boat that you are, and failures are quickly forgiven. They don't judge you, and so on and so forth. So a lot of benefits to get into the habit of getting out of your comfort zone. Remember that every time you get comfortable, you should start getting uncomfortable. Make it a habit. I'll take a pause. Any questions?
Hello, sir. This is Shakti. I have a question.
Please.
Yes, sir. How to handle the fear of failure that creeps in when we try to move out of our comfort zone?
By failing again and again and again and again and getting back up. That's the only way. But it's just, for example, the way schools used to be in my time, we never used to get a chance to present in front of an audience. So when I joined college and I was made to do that, I used to get stage fright. I used to shiver. I used to forget everything, and so on and so forth. So two things I did. One is I looked out for opportunities to stand in front of people and speak, and especially start with groups that would not laugh at me or that would not shout me down and things like that, so that I build that confidence. But I also played to my strength in that I was very good at mugging up things. I could write something down, mug it up, and speak it verbatim. So when I used to go for presentation, I used to write things down all the way from saying, "Good morning, folks, how are you doing today?" And I used to write it down, mug it up, go and blurt it out. So you have to play to your strengths to figure out how to overcome your weakness. And again, the more you do of something, the less you fear that. And the more diverse things you do, they will play into each other and make you a more complete person. So the 2 years that you get, that is the best time to fail and get up, because college is much more forgiving. Your friends are much more forgiving than the real world, because your friends are more or less in the same boat. If you're afraid of something, they may be afraid of something else. Help each other out and learn how to beat fear. Make sense?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Hello, sir. This is Tira.
Please.
Hello, sir. This is Tira. Am I audible?
Yes, you are. Please go ahead.
Yes, sir. My question is similar to Shakti Bhadi, who I asked earlier. Sir, you have said in your first slide that you find over a long period of time after you're getting into sales and marketing job that you are a numbers person. Once you realize that you can't even switch to say, for example, like the finance sector, but you are forced to work in the sales and marketing sector itself because of your number of obstacles in the sense. So in that sense, what did you say to yourself to convince yourself to continue that sales and marketing job for a long period of time? How you convince yourself? Basically, that's what you said to yourself and move on that pace.
Okay, so again, I'm afraid to answer such questions because my personality is very different from a lot of other people I have come in contact with. So, to me, for example, I believe in karam kiye ja phal ki ichha mat kar. That means just do your duty and don't worry about what returns or what rewards you will get for that. So to me, it's very clear. I have a to-do list. I do that. I don't think too much about what's going to happen. I do have a long-term plan and a mid-term plan and a short-term plan, but I don't worry too much about what's going to happen if I do this, if I don't do that. So to me, it's very clear. Once I've decided that I want to build a career in sales and marketing, I put down a set of steps. I don't worry about I don't have doubts. I don't worry about should I have done finance, should I have been in information systems. My other friend is earning so much money, I'm not earning that. I don't think about all those things. And it's that's why I'm afraid to give this advice, because not many people can do that. So each of you has to figure out what is right for you at that point in time of your life. But once you make a decision, try to stick with that for 1, 2, 3 years without having any doubts. So once you decide that this is my 3-year plan, this is where I want to be, this is my mid-term plan, this is my short-term plan. And once you decide, don't have any doubts. Do that. And then review at the end of 3 years as to whether you are in the right place or should you change direction. So the biggest cause for stress and hindrance, I would say, is doubt, and try and avoid that.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, sir.
Okay. So,
sir,
yeah.
am I audible? Can I have a doubt?
Yes,
Hello?
yes, please.
Yeah.
Yes,
sir,
please.
like
just 1 second before you ask. I just like to ask the organizers, how are we doing on time? Do we have more time, or do we have a cutoff?
We have 10 more minutes, sir.
Okay. Please go ahead.
Yes, sir. Sir, to me, actually, I find out the first point and the fourth point to be kind of contradictory, because a specialization is we choose where we are comfortable with. And actually, the fourth point is such a way like we have to move out of a comfort zone. So career-wise, are you choosing to go with the first point, and in between your career, are you asking us to go follow the fourth point?
No. They're not contradictory in the sense that even if you choose sales and marketing as a career, for example, you might have to keep reinventing yourself within that career choice itself. So that's why today, for example, 30 years ago, we used to print brochures and hand it to people when we would go and meet them. Today, nobody does that. Dr. Asit is a good example of somebody who has straddled physical marketing and digital marketing excellently. So he had to reinvent himself from physical to digital marketing. So that's what I'm saying. Even within a chosen field, you will have to reinvent yourself repeatedly. And unless you have this nature of trying out things or acquiring skills that are outside your comfort zone, you will find that very difficult. Make sense?
Yes, sir. Understood. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm too smart to be pinned down on such factors. I can always wiggle myself out of these contradictory statements. So let's go to the next one, career path. So I'll let you absorb this visual, and what I'll do is let us hold the questions. I have another 5 points that I will cover quickly, and I can leave this presentation with your school. But let me finish the points, and then you can ask questions till whatever time we have. So I wish that I had invested in improving myself. Again, this is not about things that you have no choice with, like you have to study, you have to attend interviews and stuff like that. So those are things that you have to do anyway. But this is more about a bunch of things that are extremely personal that you have to do for yourself. Like all the way from personal hygiene to taking care of your health, to how you handle your relationships, to how you handle your finances and so on. So nobody is going to judge you on this. Nobody is going to tell you to do these. These are things that you have to do for yourself. What I do today, and I should have done it earlier, so every day I sit alone for an hour to see what is it that I have to do to be a better me in the future. So, for example, today I sit and think, for example, this money is lying in a fixed deposit. Could I have a better use? Could I put this money to better use? I'm just giving that as an example. Nobody else is going to come and tell you to do that. Or I missed exercising last week. Why did I miss? How can I make sure I don't miss? Things like that. This is something that's very personal to you. It is important. Right now, you're young, you're healthy, you have a lot of energy. You're out to conquer the world. You might think, why should I spend time on all these things? And I can give you 2-3 reasons why you should. One is, all these things have to become a habit. They have to become a second nature to you. So unless you start early, unless you form these as habits when you're young, it will be more and more difficult to make them a part of your life as you get older. And secondly, all these things have a compounding effect. So the earlier you start, the bigger the effect will be in your life, right? Again, I'll let you absorb the visual while I take a pause. So I wish I had maximized real world experience. I just cannot tell you how important this is. In my time, I used to avoid that because I was busy enjoying life. I was busy enjoying doing other things. In the sum total of 2 years, I remember that I probably did only one project outside of the campus, and that was for a local ice cream company where we did some market research for them, and we ended up spending a lot of time eating ice cream. So that's all we did. And also, just to give you perspective, the real world is very different from everything else. And I'm sure some of you have work experience and realize that. But just to give you a quick example, I in my BTech, after the third year, I did an internship in L&T. And my job was to make sure that a digital readout, that was an expensive piece of equipment fixed to a CNC machine, was not working. And they said, you have 2 months to fix this. And I did everything possible. I brought all my theoretical knowledge to bear. I spoke to friends. I spoke to the OEMs to try and sort of fix that DRO. And everything failed. It just refused to work. So on the last couple of days, I had nothing else to do. I broke open the DRO. I cleaned it up. I put it back, and it worked. So it's just dirt that was preventing it from working. So you see that the real world is very, very, very different from everything else that you have seen in terms of your professional life. So these 2 years are especially important because you can use what you learn to solve real world problem, but at the same time, the hacks that you learn while you do those things can help you learn better. So try and use the 2 years that you have to get as much sort of experiences outside of studies as you can. And I'm not saying that if you're specializing in sales and marketing, you should only do sales and marketing. Not at all. When you go home, look at an uncle who's running a business, go and work for that person, or look for a friend who's trying to do a startup, go and support them. So try and get as much rounded experience as you can. Just don't limit yourself to your specialization or any specific area. So this is again one of my favorites, and I'll tell you why. I wish I had maintained a to-do list. One thing you have to realize is that whatever position you are at in your life, your plate is always going to be full. And unfortunately, that's what the world has come to. Whether it's personal, professional, you'll always find that the number of hours in a day are not enough. So there are always a bunch of things to be done. And one of the biggest problems I see with colleagues and people that I interact with is their statement that they forgot to do something. And what happens is, if you make that repetitive statement, then over time you will be branded as somebody who cannot be depended on. So try and avoid that. And I feel that one of the best ways to do that is to create a to-do list, and it sort of it frees up your mind. Because if you don't have a list, what I've seen is that the mind keeps thinking about what is it that I have to do today. So you're constantly refreshing the list of things you have to do today. And as you do that, your mind gets cluttered. You're not able to focus on the task at hand, and you end up doing a bad job of everything. So try and write things down as much as possible. And what it has also helped me do is sort of, when I write 10 things, I'm able to prioritize. So I know that I won't be able to complete 10 things today. I at least know I got the 5 most important things done. And I also make it a habit to strike things off in bold strikes as I complete that, so that sort of keeps my morale up that I'm getting things done. So kind of getting too much of a monologue. Anybody has a question that I can answer? I just have 2 more points that I can cover quickly. Any questions I can take? Okay. So let's do this. Might be a bit out of focus, this picture, but the board says what do we mean by creativity, independent thinking, knowledge for its own sake? And a student asks, will this be on the test? So I wish I had studied to learn and not just for grades. As students, we are extremely smart. There are many hacks we have to make sure that we get grades beyond the knowledge that we have. Cheating, taking so-called easy courses, tagging along with project groups that are supposed to be smart and hard workers, studying only those portions that are expected to come in tests, taking others' notes and setting. So a lot of things that I have done in my MBA program as well that got me the grades, but not necessarily the knowledge. And one thing I have seen, at least in my life, is that nobody has ever asked me for my grades, but everybody has tested my knowledge. So please don't for a minute think that I am saying grades are not important, but that is not the end goal. Grades have to be a byproduct of the knowledge that you gain and not an end in itself. So please take that learning to be much more important than getting grades. And the last piece I had, not sure if beer is allowed on campus, I'm sure it is. I wish I had made volunteering or helping people a way of life. Now, a lot of people think that by volunteering, they are doing a favor to somebody else, for somebody else. But believe me, when you volunteer, when you help somebody, when you give without expecting anything in return, it helps you a lot more than it helps the other person. When you do that, you get a high for sure. You feel good about yourself, and that impacts everything else that you do. But much more importantly, it teaches you empathy, and empathy is one of the most critical aspects that you can imbibe in yourself or learn that will help you in your personal and professional life. And once you have been involved with people that don't have what you have, you learn to appreciate what you have. That automatically reduces the stress in you, the keeping up with the Joneses sort of an attitude that makes you much more content. You believe me, you'll be much more happier than you would be otherwise, just by giving to others without expecting anything in return. And this need not be something big like I want to reduce global warming, I want to reduce the nuclear warheads in the world. No, this has to be a simple thing like I'm going to help my maid's son study better, or I'm going to feed 10 people that have been affected by COVID. So these can be very small things, very direct things where you see immediate impact, and believe me, you will gain a lot by doing this. You'll gain much more than the recipient of your volunteering activity. So that's all I had for today. Unfortunately, I've taken some extra time, but depending on how much time you guys are happy to take questions or end it here. Your call.
Just one last thing, sir. I just want to know what is the biggest challenge you faced in your professional career and how did you overcome it?
See, it is after having worked for 30 odd years, it's very difficult to pick one. But if I have to, so the thing is that I hate politics in the workplace. And that is one of the reasons why I have always been a small company person. So I've never worked for large companies because in India and as I'm sure across the globe, as a company starts becoming larger, it becomes more politicized. So things happen because of who you know and not because of what you're capable of. So there have been instances where we have all worked very hard to build a company to a size, and then politics creep in, and you're given your blood and sweat to build that company. You try to stamp it out, you try to remove that, but you fail. So then it becomes very difficult for you to exist in that scenario. So the only choice I had was to leave the company. So you try to fix something. If you can't fix it, then you leave. So and it feels it's very difficult to leave if you build something with your own hands and then you have to leave it suddenly. It's very difficult. But that's a call you have to make. Will you compromise with your principles, or will you stand by them? But again, my situation was very different in that by that time I was comfortable with my financial situation. I need not have worked for money. So I still ask myself the question that if I had still had to work for money, would I have made the same decision? So in hindsight or hypothetically, everything is possible. But at that point in time, the decision I made was to leave. Make sense?
Thank you, sir. We'll take a last question from Mr. Suresh.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. That will be the last question. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir, after your 3 decades of experience you have, and obviously you would have handled different challenging positions. In those positions, how did you maintain your work-life balance?
So India is unfortunately one of those companies where if you have a work-life balance, people look down upon you. If you're not working on a Saturday, Sunday, people think that you're goofing off. So hopefully people like you that enter the workforce will change that culture. But to me, the way I do see, I work, so I am busy 24 hours a day, except when I am not sleeping. So what I have done is that I never stop myself from doing personal things, just like I never stop myself from doing professional things. So right now on a Monday afternoon, if I want to go to a movie with my son, I would do that just as I would work on a Saturday or a Sunday afternoon. So that is how I have managed my work-life balance, in that I do what is right at that point in time. There is no fixed time that from 9 to 6 or 10 to 8 I will do office work, and at other times I will do personal work. I do what is required to be done at that point in time, so that I'm comfortable with both aspects. So again, don't take that as the gospel truth, because my life has been very different in that the first, I would say till 2011. So the first 20 years of my life that I was a salesperson, I used to work alone. And while I had a team, I was still alone in that I was in different postings around the globe. And because I always used to work for a small company, most of this work I did from home. So in the sense that I just roll off the bed and I'm in office. So that way it became much more challenging for me to clearly separate my professional and personal life. So the way I manage that is, I never used to stop myself from doing something personal just because it was office time. And I never stopped myself from doing professional work just because it was a Saturday or a Sunday or Friday evening. Make sense?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Now that brings us to the close of this session. And this is Professor Magnus, and thank you so much, Ram sir, for your 9 pearls of wisdom. I'm sure the students had a great insight. When you said 9 in the beginning, I was trying to recollect what is the significance of that number 9. I'm sure most of you would be able to recollect that from your different religions, but in the scriptures, if you look, 9 refers to completeness, and these 9 mantras gives us when we adopt, I think it will make these MBA graduates a complete professional. You have given them insights to do a lot of introspection of what they can do and how they can look forward to do things in their next 2 years, and also how they can connect with the other stakeholders in the institution, like how they can connect with their professors, how they can connect with their peers in terms of helping and also encouraging them with a lot of volunteering activities, and also how they have to spend more time to them to improve themselves. I'm really happy that you were able to make it today for us and give some time for these students. And we also look forward to meeting you in the campus once we are open for academic activities. Thank you so much, sir, for your time. And I also would like to extend my thanks to our director for connecting us with you and helping us listen to all your insights that you have gathered over your past work experience. Thank you so much, sir. And thank you, students, and thank you, director.
Thank you very much. All the best.
Thank you so much. Thank you.